Barebacking. That's all I got.
Mom's gonna love this one.
Barebacking porn is becoming the norm.
Mentioning that you are HIV positive isn't always going to be a negative situation.
I think that the younger generation is maybe a little more relaxed about it.
It's irresponsible to make porn of that nature.
You'll have to forgive me. I haven't watched as much gay porn as I probably should. So, yeah, all right, I watched a little bit, but only enough to be a lady.
So Jess said that she has seen her fair share of gay porn in her life.
Has it increased the number of movies that are featuring barebacking? Is it something that you are conscious of having watched unfold?
I always notice it. Like, I always notice whether a condom is being used. The fact of the matter is that there are going to be teenagers watching and using that influence in their own sex lives, and it is dangerous.
I just don't think we can think about porn in terms of like what a teenager's going to do with this material. Like, it's just not, like, that's not what porn is. It's not like educational, they're not role models. I just don't see porn producers as being held to a standard that, you know, should be this like gold standard.
Does that mean that we have to start policing all the porn agencies then and say, well, look, you're setting a bad example?
I mean, it's not about, setting that educational tone. I think it's about setting a tone for fantasies and what is sort of a common fantasy. I think the more you see something, the more you get an idea of what is maybe normal to you and what isn't.
Look, porn isn't a rule book to what should and shouldn't be done in the bedroom, and if somebody else isn't wearing a condom, doesn't necessarily mean the person who's watching it isn't going to do it.
Porn shouldn't be your babysitter. But at the end of the day, most people don't learn to have sex from the babysitter, as far as I know.
Yes, I notice when condoms aren't used in porn, and it takes me out of it for a second, but I just clock it and then it's back to business.
Porn is fantasy, we all know that. But if you watch enough of it, it normalizes behavior. I sound like a doctor.
Often these guys look, beautiful and healthy and whatever, but I don't think that they are all necessarily HIV negative. I think probably a lot of them are positive, and it's interesting to think about it from that point of view.
As a gay man, is it a real thing of desire to start thinking about barebacking because you are fed this through the medium of porn? Maybe it is, but it isn't for me because I'm thinking about safe sex. So it doesn't really excite me to see that.
I would like to be able to say that bareback porn is no hotter than porn that depicts safe sex, but I can't say that. It is hotter, I'm sorry.
I may very well have my concerns about barebacking in porn, but do I watch it? I mean, I don't not watch it.
There are reasons why people don't want to use condoms. It doesn't feel as good, like there are people who are pushing a safe sex message never say, use this, it will save your life. It isn't going to feel as good, but just put up with that. It may cause problems.
Does it still feel pretty good?
Not always. I don't love them, I have to say.
Unless you're part of a monogamous couple and have been for years and years and years with that trust there, I think it's irresponsible and I think it's dangerous.
I don't have unsafe sex outside of a relationship, which is probably what most experts would recommend. But sometimes talking to other people, I'm made to feel like taking those risks is normal.
What kind of ramifications do the representations of sex in porn have on actual gay relationships?
I wouldn't watch a bareback porn and think, well, that's what I'm going to do. Even in the heat of the moment, I'd stop and go, no, I need to look after myself.
We are saying this as adult men, though. You've got to think about maybe young teenage gay people who,
true.
are quick to blow, or they're quite excitable quickly, and they might not even consider rummaging.
And that's very true. And I guess being my age, I'm 40, so that's a very good point.
Peter, is it a younger generation that didn't have to live through losing a lot of their friends and their peers?
I grew up I was a teen in the 80s, so in the 80s you'd see these really scary AIDS ads. You'd have those images of the Grim Reaper in your head, so you'd think straight away, okay, you're going to educate yourself, you're going to be safe every single time. And I guess now there may be room for people to lapse in their protection of themselves.
I'm 23 now. Like, full disclosure, a couple of years back, I went through a very slutty period. But I never once had bareback sex in that entire time because I'm so terrified. I'm so terrified of contracting HIV. It's something that is within me that I can't sort of turn off.
What is it that scares you?
A general fear of death. And then when you have, like, then being gay, in most people's minds, HIV is a very gay disease. And I let that get to me. I let myself think that it was like a matter of time or something like that.
I don't think that my paranoia about STDs and HIV is representative of my generation. I think that the culture that I consumed gives me a better picture of what it was like in the early days of AIDS. And
I had to go through counselling to sort of like try and stop this ridiculousness in my head.
That's a really interesting thing that you said, Richard.
then you had acts like the Boys Town Gang, who were openly gay men singing songs about cruising and stuff. Once AIDS kicked in, that was the end of that. But that fed into my knowledge of that there was a time before all this terror and all this paranoia, and what an amazing world that would have been to live in.
Perhaps the fact that there are more medical options available for those who contract HIV has also encouraged people to maybe be a little bit more blasé about safe sex.
I think, the attitude towards safe sex and STIs and all that is quite blasé in general.
It's gone from a message of, you will die from this disease, to one of, you can live a long and happy life.
The hot sex was always followed by, okay, that sex was hot, but am I now dying? Like that was my mindset. And it sounds ridiculous.
Are you Catholic, Richard?
No.
We'd love to have you.
I can definitely understand Richard's story about being, really paranoid about contracting any kind of STD. And I think a lot of gay men have been through something similar.
I remember my mother would say to me when I came out to her, she was like, you're going to get AIDS, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and that's the mentality from 1989 when I came out. So yeah, that was something very, very, very present in my mind at the time as well, absolutely.
Maybe I am more focused on safe sex than other guys my age, but I am Asian and we're scared of catching shit.
Is there a feeling like if you accept that about yourself, it is almost like a matter of time, because something like HIV is a disease that's for you especially?
That's how I felt years ago, I think, because when I was younger, that came with the turf.
I was quite educated about safe sex and have been for quite a while. I was a queer officer at university, so I was literally surrounded by condoms. There were condoms everywhere.
It's like saying anybody in any field setting a bad example is really bad. Like, I think people need to just man up and be adults and actually realise, well, look, this is an unsafe practice. I need to decide in my life whether or not to do this. And that's not to say that barebacking is always bad.
Is the point to bring out a condom just at anal penetration, or is it something that you think about with oral sex as well?
Even in my state. No. What did I just say? Even in my state of terrifiedness, extreme paranoia.
You would just make love with somebody when they're like covered in glass.
No, but I was going to say, even in my state of extreme paranoia, I never really even considered a condom.
No matter how slutty Richard got, he would never cop a blowy with a dog. And I respect him for that. No, I just not endorse or disendorse.
Condoms in fish bowls in the office, condoms on the couch, condoms on my desk, condoms up my ass. There were condoms everywhere.